Good evening, everyone. Kodesh Tov.
Kodesh Tov, how are you?
Baruch Hashem, thank you. Okay. Yeah, so last night we didn't do Shulchan Aruch. So we gotta do it now and then we'll move on. So it says over here like this: Kol elu brachot shetzarich shelo yafsik beren bracha lechila. All these blessings, it says, right? Don't make an interruption between the blessing and the eating. So once you make the blessing, you gotta taste it right away. That's important. So says the Rama, yoter mikudeh dibur. So he says, right, that also don't make a gap in terms of, just timing. Right? Don't wait. So take it right away. So in other words, the two things, right? One is don't talk, and another thing is also don't wait. Don't pause. So the Rama says don't pause more than like 2 or 3 seconds. Talk at the dibur. That's what it is. 2 3 seconds. So yeah. There you go. So then it goes on. And then it says, right, you got to also hear the blessing. So it has to be loud enough so you can hear it with your ears. It should be like that. And ve'im lo ishmi'a leoznav, didn't hear it. He did fulfill his obligation. But he has to at least move his lips, right? At least that much. And then b'diavad it's okay. But lechatchila you should hear it also. So we said right last time, yesterday, that the reason is because people should be able to say amen to you. When you're making the blessing. They can't hear you. How they're going to say amen? Okay, that's one thing. So then the next issue is V'lo yibarech arom, right? As we said yesterday, don't make blessings when you're naked. Ad sheichaseh erbato, right? So at least cover your, as we said, right, your private parts, your genitals. At least that much. What is that talking about? A man, right? As we said, women have a different physiology. We explained that yesterday. I'm not going to go into it again. אבל אישה בשפתיו, אבל אישה יושבת בפניה של מטה תאכות בקרקע. As we said, right? Even if a woman could be, actually naked, just sitting down, and covering her private parts, and that would do the job. כי בזה מתכסה ערוותה, right? And with that, right, the erva will be, the private parts will be covered. ואפילו אם אינו ערום, so even if he's not naked, אם ליבו רואה את הערווה עד שראה שראשו מגולה, אסור לברך. So he says, right, also another thing, which is that if his heart sees the erva, um, which means that there's like a field of vision between his heart, his chest, and his genitals. So it shouldn't be like that. So how do you solve that problem? That it should be not aligned, right? Or at least you're wearing some clothing on it, so therefore one cannot see the other, right? As if so that's that. And then right, the next issue, which is the issue of covering your hair, right? But the thing is that we already said yesterday that nowadays women, don't cover their hair, especially single girls, don't cover their hair. So they're not really obligated to cover their hair when they bless or when they pray, right? It's not customary these days. I'll tell you guys something interesting. That the Shulchan Aruch says actually, that even single girls should cover their hair. Uh, but the thing is that the custom has changed regarding that. There are probably several reasons for that, whatever. But the point is that nowadays, since women are not accustomed to cover their hair, especially single women, so that's why they're not obligated to pray also with their hair covered, because it's not a part of the dress code today. That's the thing. When it comes to a man, definitely his hair should be covered when he makes a blessing. That's already pretty clear. We spoke about that when we started the whole class. That they can't even walk for amot, the men, right, without covering their hair. So same thing also goes here for making a blessing as well. Okay, great. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll move on. Okay, so going to Dalid. This is an important halacha. It's pretty obvious, but a lot of people may not know this. So let's take a look at it. So it says here in the Torah, כל דבר שמברך עליו לאכלו או להריח בו, צריך לאחוזו בימינו כשהוא מברך. So the rule is like this, right? That whatever you're going to eat or you're going to smell it, we're going to talk about, the fragrances later on, right? We're going to get to that. But the point is that whatever it is that you're going to bless on, you have to be holding it in your hand when you bless on it. That's what we're saying. So, people know this, but, sometimes you may not really know that it's necessary to do that. So why do they want you to hold it in your hand when you bless on it? There could be several reasons, but the obvious reason is because it should be handy, to taste it right away, in your hands, ready to go. And it also makes it more apparent, like what you're blessing on, when you're holding it in your hand like that. So definitely several reasons for that. So let's see Shulchan Aruch on that one. Did we read the Bet Yosef? No, I'm sorry, I didn't read it, I guess. So he says Bet Yosef here, נראה שלמד כן מדתניא, it seems like you learned this from what we learned in the Braita, פרק כיצד מברכים, right? In this פרק, in Mem Gimel Amud Bet, also in Brachot, הביאו לפניו יין ושמן, it says over there, right? If they brought before him some wine or oil, בית הלל אומרים, אוחז את היין בימינו ואת השמן בשמאלו. So Bet Hillel says he holds the wine with his right hand, and the oil with his left hand. Right, first he blesses on the wine and then on the oil. Oh, like it says in chapter 212. We're going to see that later on down the road. So that's the Bet Yosef, yes. Okay, so let's see Shulchan Aruch. זה שולחן ערוך. כל דבר שמברך עליו לאכלו או לירח בו, anything which he's going to bless on, as we said, right? צריך לאחזו, he has to hold that בימינו כשהוא מברך, in his right hand, when he blesses on it. Okay, there you go. Very simple. Are any of you lefties, by the way? Is there any lefties? Okay. Because here it says the right hand, you know. Let's see what the Mishnah Berurah says about that. Yeah, so Mishnah Berurah catches on to that right away. He says, right, that if you're a lefty, then you should hold it with your left hand because that's your strong hand. We always want to use the stronger hand, you know, which is the more prominent one. So if you're a lefty, that's the way it goes. So that's that. What else we got here? Hey, this is also an important one. Well, it says here in the Torah, "En mevarachin lo al ochel velo al mashke ad sheyaviu lefanav." You don't bless or food and drinks until they bring it to you, right? So what does that mean? It has to be like, you know, in front of you, you know, definitely in your room at least, right? In front of you also. Yeah, of course. And so it says, "B'Yosef Yosef regarding that, Ken Katab Rambam." This is what Rambam said, Perek Daled, chapter 4. Ve'im tomar mai shana midin emet amat hamayim de besamuch. You're going to tell me, he says, what's the difference between that which we're going to talk about, which is the dike of water? So meaning what? That, you know, the water is flowing inside the dike, right, in the gutter, whatever it is. And so, you know, it's not stationary. It's not in front of you. So then how do you do it like that? How do you bless on it? This could be that's different here. Why? Because it's possible they won't bring it to you. if it's not in front of you. Aval hamayim, but the water is upon the wall. But the water we know it's going to come down, right? Because it's flowing. So it's an eventuality, it has to happen. ונראה לי שדין זה דאין מברכין על האוכל או משקה עד שיביאו לפניו. So it seems to me that the din, it says that we don't bless on food and drinks till they bring it to you. הוא מאי דאמינן בירושלמי, this is what it says in ירושלמי, ההן דנאסי בעיגולה ומברך עליה, והוא לא עתה בידי, צריך לברוכי עליה, זמן תנינות. Right, so it says in the Yerushalmi some strong words. That what? That if they didn't bring this, food to you, whatever it is, the drink, and you blessed on it, you have to bless again because it wasn't there. So you got to do another blessing. אוקיי, כלומר, מי שתופס עיגולה, הוא כבר בירך עליו קודם שבא לידו, צריך הוא עכשיו לחזור וברך. So he explains, right, what I just told you. So yeah, that's the story there. So you got to have it in front of you. So then he moves on. מה שכתב רבנו, אבל אם מי שברך על פירות שלפניו, כך הביאו לו הכי יותר מתאמין. So what about if, right, this is a very common case, right? Everybody asks about this all the time. Let's say, you had some fruits in front of you on the table, right, where you're eating whatever, and then later on they bring you more fruits, from the fridge, from the kitchen, So do you have to make another blessing for that or not? That's the question, right? So simply, right, you don't have to make another blessing. So let's see a bit Yosef what he says. So it says it doesn't have to be from the same type of food. ממש, right? אלא היינו לומר שיהיה ממון ברכת הראשון, it just has to be the same blessing, right? As long as it's the same blessing, and they bring you more, right, stuff from the kitchen, from the fridge, you don't have to make another bracha, even though it wasn't in the room when you blessed. בדין זה נראה שהוא נלמד ממה שכתב רשב"א. It seems to come from Rashba, it says, this halacha. גבי דברים הבאים מסעודה, regarding things which come מסעודה, בשם רבינו זרחיה, name of this rabbi. The לפירוש רש"י, according to Rashi, he says, Rapapa, Ashminan, Shafa Pi, Rapapa is going to teach you that even though שלא היו פירות לפניו, even though the fruit was not in front of him, Bishar Shebirach Alapat, the time that he blessed on the bread, but since they're coming to come as a relish for the bread, they don't need a blessing at all. וכן כתב רבינו מנוח, that's what it says in this rabbi, דהכי משמע בירושלמי, it says, it implies in ירושלמי, דאמת המים, זה בסמוך, where it talks about the type of water, like we talk about, וכדמינן בכולה נקבע דברכתה היא, וכן כתב בספר אוהל מועד. So they're all agreeing on one thing, right? Which is that once you started a meal, and you blessed on bread, and then some more things came, from the fridge, from the kitchen, you don't have to bless on those new things, right? Because then everything was supposed to be a part of the meal. And you expected that, it's no big surprise. Okay, great. So what else we got? וכן כתב בספר אוהל מועד, בעין במה שכתבתי בסימן קע"ט. Look what it says, different chapter, ק', right, which is 179. Okay, we already passed that. B'Sheva Kobo. So I'm not going to go back there now. I hope you remember it. It's okay. You'll remember it. It's okay. So let's see Shulchan Aruch. Hey, right? So it says over here, En mivarchin lo al ochel velo al mashke. So it says we don't bless on food or drinks until they bring it to you, as we said, right? Don't bless on it when it's in the kitchen. Wait till it comes to you. And then they can bring more, no problem, right? But there has to be something there in front of you to bless on. Okay, right? And what about if he blessed and then afterwards they brought it? Right? So as we said, right, you gotta bless again. Oh boy. Now you're in trouble, right? You just made a blessing in vain because you didn't have the patience to wait till it came to you. No good, right? But if he already blessed on fruits which are before him, and then he brought more, as we said, right? No tell mean from that type or different type, but it's the same blessing. And also, you don't have to bless again, right? So that's a good thing to know. This comes up all the time, right? In practical life, it's very, very common, very frequent. Okay, so says the Ramah here. וטוב להיזהר לכתחילה להיות דעתו על כל מה שיביאו לו. But he says, you know what? לכתחילה, he says, it's good to have it in mind, just to be on the safe side. Right? This is like your Ashkenazi insurance policy, let's put it this way, right? Just to be sure. Okay. So that's what he's saying, right? But even he agrees, that even if you didn't have it in mind, you still don't have to make another blessing. That's clear. Okay, great. Let's move on. Okay, Vav. This is an interesting and important one also. Um, all these are so practical. So it says, I'm sorry, it says in Vav, Natal be'ado pri le'ochlo berach right? So what happened? He took a fruit, to bless on it, and guess what? Right before he got a chance to eat it, it fell down, fell out of his hand. So what's the rule? The rule is, I think you have to bless again. Let's see the tour here. Let's see here. Right. So, right, look what it says, right? I'll tell you the exact language. Natal biado pri, right? Again, if he took a fruit to bless on it, right? And he blessed, and boom, it falls down, right? The nevad got lost. Oh boy. So then you have to bless again. Even though he had more of that stuff right in front of him, right? יותר כשבירך על הראשון. So you guys understand why this is? Why do you have to bless again?
Kavod there's an interruption.
Because you know what it is? Your intention was to bless on that fruit, that you were holding. So once that fruit is lost, right? That's it. You gotta bless again. This is the reason. So, I mean, this is kind of unusual. You don't usually like lose your fruit, It could happen, you never know. But that's what it is. You gotta bless again. So, all right, that's one thing. Then the other thing he mentions is "B'tzarich lomar Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Olam Vaed," right? You have to say this thing, this statement. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Olam Vaed. So why do you have to say this? Anybody know why this is?
So that it's not a blessing in vain.
Right, exactly. Because you made a blessing in vain. This is how you touch it up, you fix it somewhat. It's a fix. I mean, it's not 100%, by the way, but it's the best we can do under the circumstances. What else are you gonna do? That's the whole thing. Okay, great. So yeah, that's important stuff, to understand these things. So the truth is, right, this rule applies to any time where you made a blessing in vain. You should say this, afterwards. It's like a general rule, applies pretty much everywhere.
You have like a certain amount of time to do that?
No, not really. It doesn't. There's no time limit there. The time limit only applies when you're saying, right, when you're fixing it up, like with a verse or something, saying a verse, like lamdeni chukecha, right, which is like there's a pasuk in Tehillim, Baruch atah Adonai lamdeni chukecha. So if you want to fix it up by saying that, right, you can say that, but you have to say it right away, like you said. But the thing is that here you're not doing that, right, because you already finished the blessing. It's too late for that. So therefore, the only option you have now is to say this. So it's a little bit of a different fix, not exactly the same thing. Okay, great. So that's important to know. Important to know that because a blessing in vain is a very, very severe thing. You don't want to do that. The Rif and the Rambam, they hold that it's a Torah prohibition. Blessing in vain. Even though Tosfot says it's from the rabbis, but the Rif and the Rambam hold it that it's from the Torah. It's prohibition. Where does it say in Torah not to say a blessing in vain? This is extra credit question, guys.
And the Ten Commandments, no?
Right. What does it say there?
It is not to take the name of your Lord in vain.
Right. Which commandment is that? That's like extra command, extra credit. Okay. Which number is that?
Is that number 3?
Yes, it is. Ah. Chazak Baruch. Okay. Yeah, it's number 3, right? Exactly. So, right, it says lo tisa et shem Adonai elecha b'shav, right? That's exactly the Hebrew language, right? So, according to Rif and Rambam, a blessing in vain will definitely, right, get you over that, right? That you'll be transgressing that commandment. There you go. So, okay, so you gotta be careful with that. Okay, great. Well, you guys are getting pretty sharp. You guys are gonna, I hate to say it, but I'm teaching you pretty good. You guys are. Now I know you know your stuff. Okay. I hate to take credit for it, but okay. So anyway, let's move on. Okay, so let's see the Bit Yosef. We gotta go to Bit Yosef. So says Bit Yosef, right? Where's the source for this halakha? Well, it says it's Yerushalmi, right? Perek Ketzad Mevarchin over there in Brachot. Rabbi Zerikan Amar Rabbi Zera Ba'e Ahan Denasiv Tur Mesa Umarech Aloi Menafal Mine Mao Bebarcha Ale Zman Tinyanut, right? So it's exactly asking the question that we just had, right? Which is, if the fruit fell, right? Does he have to? Should he bless again on that? What do you do, right? That's the question. Ma benor ben amatamayim. So Gemara asks, right, what's the difference between that and the case of the dike of water? I mean, Tama lechach kabin. So the answer in the Gemara over there. That was his intention, right? Dato mitchila beram. That was his intention in the beginning. Beram hacha lo lechach kabin. But here, that wasn't his intention. That's the difference, between the dike of water and this case. Okay, so dato mitchila tane dato mitchila. So therefore, that was his intention in the beginning. So it wasn't his intention. I'm saying just the opposite. It wasn't his intention. Okay, whatever. Anyway, so what else we got? Then he moves on. Tani Rabbi Chia en mevarchin ala pat ela b'shat shehu pares. So another thing he says in that Gemara is that you only bless on the bread at the time where you break the bread. We say hamotzi and then we break it right on the spot. Am Rabbi Chia bar Baba. So this rabbi says, Hada amra ahan des denasiv igula ambarech aloi ilaboy veha lo ate bide tzarich mitvarcha ilaboy zman tinyanut. So he tells you, right, that you see from there, he says that if you had something, right, you blessed on, right, and all of a sudden you didn't get a chance to eat that thing, so you have to bless again. Why? Because you couldn't eat that item that you were blessing on. So that's the thing. Okay, great. So again, it says you have to say this, right? You got to say this. If you made a blessing in vain, you got to say it. Why? So it shouldn't be a blessing, right? Mentioning the name of God in vain. So let's just ask this question right now, which is that how does this really fix the problem, of blessing in vain, to say this? What's the theory behind it? Anybody have any ideas? Okay, so it just like popped into my head right now, as we were learning. So I'll tell you what it seems to me that what do these words mean? Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam It means blessed is the name of the honor of his kingdom forever and ever. And that makes it not in vain. So now, you guys following me? What's going on here? So, you know what it is? Yeah, okay. Anybody have any ideas? So I'll explain to you. It means to say like this, that you just made a blessing which was not necessary, right? So you mentioned the name of God in vain. So what we tell you is, now say this, right? So now it's not in vain anymore. You know why? Because you said the God's name in order to bless him. So now you're blessing him. So it's not in vain now. That's the whole thing. That's a trick, Even though it's sort of like a trick, it's like a loophole kind of thing. But still, it somewhat fixes it up, somewhat. I don't know if it totally fixes it, but definitely, right, it does something there.
Is there any limit to the number of times like you can say that? Bless God's name.
I'm sorry. Why would you want to say it several times? I don't get
Oh, I'm
it.
just saying, all right, say you make a mistake multiple times a day. Do you only get like a one-off a day or
No. You can do that anytime. Anytime. I hope you're not making multiple mistakes, but but
sometimes I forget what I'm doing and I say the wrong blessing.
right. I get you. I understand what you mean. Yeah, okay, whatever. Whatever happens, happens. What can we do, right? We do the best we can. So bottom line is that every time this happens, yes, you should say it, right? Even if, God forbid, if it happened 100 times, you should say it 100 times. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay, great. So let's move on. What else we got here? Katav Rosh, says the Rosh, Mitoch Yerushalmi, he says, from this Yerushalmi, Hazeh, Mashma Dehad De'en Mevarchin Al Pat, El Bashat Shil Botzea, says, it implies that which we said, right? We don't bless on the bread until the time that we break it. I know Tama Shelo Yibatzah Kodem Al Bracha, because he says we don't want that he should break it before the blessing. Why? Shema Tipola Prusa. So he says, you know what? It could be that the slice will fall right on the floor. And then it'll get lost, right? You have to bless again, right? On a different one. And that's going to be again, right? The same problems, blessing in vain, all that stuff, right? So, we don't want that. So that's why they told you, don't bless on the bread until you, right, are ready to break it. But not beforehand. Okay. Great. Let's see what else we got here. ויש כאן ברכה לבטלה. There will be a blessing in vain. Again, that's what it says. אבל כשהוא מברך קודם בצייה, but it says if he's blessing right before breaking it, על כל פת אם תיפול הפרוסה מידו, so then, right, he says if it will fall down, the piece of bread, יפרוס אחרת, he can break another one, ולא יצטרך לברך, he won't have to bless again. אף אגב, the Gemara דידן, even though it says in our Gemara in Bavli, למה תדע מודע, פליגה ירושלמי, argues in ירושלמי, Behai Tama in this reason. Says we learn nevertheless we learn from Yerushalmi we learn that if he had fruit in front of him, the dato leochlam, his intention was to eat them. And he took one of them, and he blessed on it, it fell down, and it got lost. Then I have to bless another blessing. Then the foods that you're going to eat later on. Again, right, you got to say this again. Right? Same thing. The blessing that he made in vain. So he says, some say, right, that only applies if he said, right, Elokeinu melech haolam. אבל אם לא אמר אלא ברוך אתה השם, but if he only said ברוך אתה השם בלבד, only that, יסיים יעבר מלמדני חוקיך, as we said, right? Say this pasuk from Tehillim, that's even better. כדי שהוא קורא pasuk, it should be like you're reading a verse. So where is this Tehillim? Kuf Yud Tet, Yud Bet, right? Just in case you guys are looking for it. That's your go-to. ולא יהיה מזכיר שם שם שמיים לבטלה. So this shouldn't be a blessing in vain. It shouldn't be mentioning again God in vain. עד כאן לשם, that's the end of it. וכן כתב רבנו יונה, that's what it says רבנו יונה, וגם הרמב"ם פרק ד' כתב, כדברי, רמב"ם also says, right, like Yerushalmi. Okay. Great. Okay, what else we got here? כתב רבנו מנוח.
I'm sorry. Did you just read that if the person made a mistake in the first three parts of the blessing, like when you say Baruch Atah Hashem, and then
So Yeah, so what we're saying, I'll repeat that again, right? What we're saying is like this. If you just said Baruch Atah Hashem, you said Lamdeni Chukecha, which is the verse. And but if you already said Elokeinu Melech HaOlam, it's too late for that. So now you gotta do Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam. Does that help you your question?
Yes, Kavod Harav, thank you so much.
Okay, God bless. So that's it. All right, fantastic. So okay, let's see what else we got here. כתב רבנו מנוח, דלאו דווקא נפל בידו. So says this rabbi, not only if it fell from his hand, ונאבד and got lost, אלא הוא הדין אם נפל בנימס. So the same thing also applies, he says, if it fell and it became disgusting to eat, let's say it fell into some dirty place, l'achila, right? Got dirty or whatever. Pashutu, so he says that's obvious. That's the same thing as being lost, since you can't eat it now. בהגאות מאמיניות, so this rabbi says, כתבו בשם רבנו תם, he writes the name רבנו תם, שאם בירך על הכוס ונשפך, if he blessed on a cup, right? Same thing, right? And it got spilled, the water got spilled, whatever, the drink. והביאו לו כוס אחר, they brought another cup, די לו בברכה ראשונה, so he says here, he can suffice with the first blessing. Interesting. Mali acher. So he says, what do I care which cup it is? The Kolba also says this. Interesting. It seems like they hold, he says, right? The Bet Yosef. We go like in that question the Yerushalmi was asked. We go lenient there. Like this rabbi wrote, B'Shem Ravad, the name Ravad. The lo adif because biyad. That's not any different than having a cup in your hand. Kol echad ve'echad shekulam shotim b'birchato. Each one blesses on his blessing of the head of the household. Shel mevarech ve'tu aminan kula navga de birkatahi. So it says also we say that Ama kol demanach tameh chayla bracha ilave. So he says you see from there that whatever is placed in front of him, the blessing takes effect. Adkan. According to this, he says, Sarich Amar, Shemash Katav Rabbeinu, that what Rabbeinu Tam, that what Rabbeinu Tam wrote. Beviu lo kos acher, they brought another cup. Beshaya dato alav misha rishona. So we're talking about that he had intention to drink that in the beginning. Aha, wow. Okay, that's very interesting. Okay, this goes into the end of the chapter. So let's wrap it up. Why not? We should. Okay, so we'll see how we pass in the Shulchan Aruch, right? It's a little bit confusing here to see what the halacha is, but we'll see at the end. Bezat Hashem. Right? So that's what it says in Shibur Leket. It says, Matzati le Rav Nisim Gaon. So they found Rav Nisim Gaon, שמברך על הכוס שנלקח ממנו, that he says the one who blesses on a cup, right, which was taken from him, אותו כוס, הוא בא לשתות כוס אחר, so they took it from him, and now he's drinking another cup, right? חוזר ומברך פעם שנייה. So this rabbi says you got to bless again, as opposed to the first opinion, that said we don't have to bless again. So it says that applies to everything, and he says the source is Yerushalmi, as we already said. Hadin the nasib tarmusa umbarech aleh, and he blessed on Mustabra the lo ifshat bayan b'shema sevarat haGaon zal l'shvuya kiteku the Yisrael el chumra. So he says, right, that there's a machloket here, and so maybe the Gaon was being stringent about this. So he says a person who blesses on a mitzvah or to something to eat, and he didn't wasn't able to do it for some reason. Temporarily, and he got delayed. ועלתה בידו לאחז מכן, and then afterwards he was able to do it. צריך לחזור וברך, he says you have to bless again. תאמין על בירושלמי, because we see in Yerushalmi, הדה אמרה יהוד הנאסיב, because he says a person who took, it says in Yerushalmi, igula vehu lo ata bide. He took something to bless on, right? Some food, and he wasn't able to eat it, whatever. So it says there, he got blessed again. Mistabra deshiu ikuv ze kedei shelat shalom talmid larav. So he says apparently, right? This delay would be the time that it takes to, right? Say, greetings to your rabbi, right? As we said, like 2 or 3 seconds. That's about it. Shalom alecha Rabbi, right? Umori, right? That's so basically you have 4 words, right? That's how you say greetings to your rabbi. Shalom alecha Rabbi Umori. 4 words. That's about 2 seconds, right? Give or take. Maybe less. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, you get the point. Lo chashiv hapsaka, so he says it's not considered to be interruption if it was less than that. בדוגמת זה אמינן בירושלמי דהרואה So he says the example of this is coming in Yerushalmi, right? The Gabe Brakim regarding lightning, right? Whatever. Haya Yosef bebet hakiseh. He was sitting in the bathroom, right? This guy, and he wanted to bless on the lightning or whatever it is, or the thunder. Im yachol lebatok kedei dibur lebarech. If he can come out, within 2 seconds to bless, right? That's how he can do it. Ve'im lav, if he's not able to do that, lo yatzai, he shouldn't come out. No point in it. So what he's trying to say, right? Just to teach you this important concept. If you hear, some thunder or see lightning, so you're supposed to bless on that, but you only have like 2 seconds. If you wait that long, if you wait longer than that, you lost the mitzvah. So the thing is that, like we said in the beginning, regarding the eating, same thing. So the thing is that we're talking about somebody who was in the bathroom, and he couldn't say the blessing in the bathroom, so he had to come out. So if he can come out within 2 seconds, he can do the blessing. Otherwise, he's got a problem.
Kavod Harav, in that case of the blessing of, if comes out of the bathroom within 2 and 3 seconds, so
Right.
which one takes precedence? Asher Yatsa, yeah? Or that one?
Asher Yatzar, you can say later. Yeah, that's not a problem.
Okay, that you can delay a little bit
How
longer.
much time do you have to say Asher Yatzar?
I don't know, Kavod Harav.
I mean, lechatchila, you should say it right away. But
Right.
if but you do have like 72 minutes. B'diavad. If you didn't say it right away,
Thank you, Kavod Harav.
something like that. Yeah, if I remember correctly.
What
You-
about the whole, like, person going to the bathroom don't they have to wash their hands before saying a blessing?
Right. That's a good question. Would you have to wash your hands first or not? So apparently, right, it's implied from here, okay, that he's not washing his hands. Come on, let's face it, right? Where is he going to find his water to wash with, in 2 seconds?
It's just ew.
So
Okay, but I mean, he's not required to wash his hands because he's touched part of his body,
right. So here's the thing, right? That there's no question about it that a person who's in the bathroom, okay, is supposed to come out and wash his hands. But right, if he has no choice because he's in a hurry, he's racing against the clock. So then, what can he do? You guys know what to do? What he's gonna do is, like rub his hands against his clothing or something, and make the blessing. He won't have time to wash. He'll wash his hands later, afterwards. Because this is like an emergency, you know what I mean?
But I'm not talking about like for cleanliness. I mean, I'm just saying like, like once you've touched parts of your body in order to go to the bathroom, you can't just say a blessing after that. without washing your hands first.
That's what I'm saying. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna rub your hands on your clothing.
So that counts.
If you remember, we talked about this before.
Okay.
If you don't have what to wash your hands with, that's what you do. You rub your hands. If you
Or
have
on
if
a
you have
wall.
water,
Or on a wall, no kavotava?
yeah, something abrasive, right? Exactly. Yeah.
Or even dirt. That's what I heard
Yes,
too.
yes. Okay, so that's yeah, I told you, I taught you guys pretty well. You all know everything now, huh? Soon you're not even gonna need me. I'm just gonna like just listen to you guys, and forget about I'll just eavesdrop on you guys. Okay, that's a feeling of pride for me. Believe me, I'm not offended by that. I'm proud. I'm proud. It's a feeling of pride. Okay, so don't take it the wrong way. Okay. If my students are learning good, that makes me look good. It makes me feel good. Okay, I'm not offended by that. Believe me. On the contrary, right? If you guys really know me, you know me. Like I love when a person gets really really smart. For me, it's the greatest thing in the world. I never get offended by that. I never take it as an ego thing. No such a thing like that. I'm sorry. So don't worry about that. So I got I take pride in all these things. Okay, so anyway, right, as we said, um, yeah, so you're gonna just jump out, and just bless because you really got no choice. You're against, you're going, the time is against you here, and then you'll wash your hands after. But if you do have time, of course you should wash your hands first and then make the blessing. But here, you have 2 seconds. You're up against the clock. So what can you do, right? You got to be realistic. But of course, obviously, right? If a person has like, filth on his hands, you know what I mean? We're not talking about that because you can't make a blessing, if you have excrement on your hands. No, not talking about that. Okay, that's obvious, right? Because it smells bad, there's a source for that, so you cannot do that. It's not good. Okay, so you guys get the point. So that's the way it works. You got to do it within 2 seconds, right? All these things. In other words, the event and the blessing has to be within 2 seconds, juxtaposed one to the other. Okay, great. So what else we got here? Okay, we're almost done. If you guys have 2 minutes, I'll just finish it off. So, תוך כדי דיבור ולא חשיב בפסקה, וחשיבה בפסקה, בין אם ברך לדבר ולא עלה בידו, בין ברכה שנתחייב בה, לא יכול לברך אותה לפי שעה עד כאן. So he said, that's the thing, as long as you're within 2 seconds, you're good. Right? That's pretty much what he's saying. Otherwise, if you waited more than that, you can't bless anymore. That's it. Or you can't drink anymore, whatever it is that you're doing, right? מצאתי בתשובת אשכנזית אם בירך אדם על היין וכשהוא טועם הוא מים או צריך לחזור וברך בדעתו הייתה להוציא אחרים גם כן בברכתו. So what about if he blessed right on something, he says, and let's say on the wine, right? He blessed on wine, and when he tastes the wine, does he have to 1 second, I'm sorry, I lost the place. Yeah, so I'll read that one more time. Matzati b'tshuvat Ashkenazid, right? Since I found the Tshuva Ashkenazid, which is the Maharil, right? They call him the father of the Ashkenazi customs, the Maharil. He's the father. Okay, so because most of the customs of the Ashkenazim, they come from him. So im berach adam al hayayin kishu to'en mayim. So this is a person, let's say, blessed on wine, right? And but when he tastes it, it tastes like water. But not that it tastes like it is water, right? In other words, he blessed on wine, but in the cup really was water in there. Im tzarich lachazor u'barach, does he have to come back and bless again? Because he blessed on wine, and he got water instead, right? Chazor u'barach, v'dato hayta le'otzi acharim, and his intention was also to fulfill the obligation of others as well. Gam ken birkato. Wow. So he's really in trouble, right? Other people also were relying on his blessing. Ve'ashiv she'en tzarich lachazor u'barach b'ri gefen pam shenit. So he says you don't have to do b'ri gefen again. Why is that? But he had water. Right? So the answer is, since his intention was to drink wine, also other people, the other ones, they had actually wine. So when they drank, right, his blessing was fulfilled. Or they're tasting some other water, some other wine, right? Some other, cup, whatever. Afterwards, that's the end of it. Another thing he says, if he has a doubt whether he blessed on something, right, which is in front of him, or afterwards, before or after, doesn't matter. Right? So we already said, right, that when there's a blessing when there's a doubt about a blessing, we don't bless again. Right? When there's a blessing, when there's a doubt about blessings, we don't do it again. Because it could be a blessing in vain, right? That's the reason why. Okay, so let's just do Shulchan Aruch and we're done.
Kavod, did you say before and after? You mean after blessing or
After blessing? Yes.
except for Birkat Hamazon? No, that one we bless again. No,
I'm sorry.
except for Birkat Hamazon. You mean like
if you were satiated, Birkat Hamazon, and also it's for men, because women could be that it's only rabbinical by them.
But if you forgot if you recited Birkat Hamazon or no,
So it depends, right? If you're a man or a woman, as I said, right? And also if you were satiated or not. So if you were satiated and you're a man, you have to bless again. But besides that, not so. Because it's only rabbinical. Okay, that's a different discussion. But anyway, right? I'll just read the Shulchan Aruch here and we'll let you go. I don't want to keep you guys forever. Okay, so let's look at. Right, so it says Shulchan Aruch like this. Natal biado pri leochlo berachalav, right? Let's say he took a fruit to bless, and right, he blessed on it, nafal biado, and it fell down, right? Nafal biado minavad, and it got lost, or nimas, right, or it got disgusting, whatever, right, got ruined. You have to bless again, right? As we said, since you can't eat that item that you blessed on, right? Even though he had other, right stuff there, that same thing, but he didn't bless on that. He didn't hold it when he was blessing. That's the problem, It doesn't really help him that he has more apples on the table because he blessed on only this apple, he blessed on that one. This is the reason why. So says the Rama, right? But it's right. The thing is that he didn't have intention to eat that. In other words, he wasn't intending to eat it now at this sitting, right? Even though it was in front of him. He only wanted to have one apple, right? Not 5 apples. But Tzarich Lomar, right? You have to say, it says, Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Olam, as we said, right? When you make a blessing in vain, you got to say that. Al Sheltzi, why is that? Because you mentioned the name of God in vain. Shem Shemayim Vatava. V'im Amar Kenafal Kishenafal Baruch Ata Hashem, right? But if you just said Baruch Ata Hashem, V'lo Amar Elokeinu, right? You didn't say Elokeinu yet. You said Be'amar, so then you say Lamdei Nichukecha, right? Like you're saying a verse in Tehillim, right? All of a sudden you're reading Tehillim. Oh, yeah. She'en nireh kekoreh pasuk. Then kan motzi Shem Shemayim Vatava. So that won't be a blessing in vain. You see, if you can fix it up like that. So that's a good thing, if you can catch that one. You know what I mean? God help us, right? What does it mean, Lamdei Nichukecha? Guys, Teach me your statutes, right? That's right. That's what you're saying to Hashem. You know this verse, Tehillim. Teach me your statutes, Lord. Okay, so now, right, שנראה כקורא פסוק ואין בגנב. אבל העומד על המת, אמת המים, מברך השותה. But it says, if you're standing, you know, with a flowing water, right, a dike, you can bless and drink, right, even though it's flowing, you know, it's not in front of you. That's what he's saying. אף על פי שהמים שותה לא היו לפניו כשבירך. Even though when you blessed on it, it wasn't really in front of you, מפני שלכך נתכוון תחילה, because that was your intention, right? That the water that comes downstream, that's the stuff you're going to drink, right? You know that. Okay. That's your intention. So, let's move on. So it says, Daniel, right? Okay, we're done. Right. So it says, look over there in chapter, right? Lekam in Reish Tet, right? With 209. We didn't see that yet. Sif Yud, right? Talking Aleph, in Barech, Madino. Right. So over there, we talk about the issue of, you know, if he blessed in by mistake. What happens over there? Right? It's a whole discussion about that over there. Chapter 209. But we'll get to that. Okay, very good. So I rushed through a little bit, but I hope you got it. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll let you guys go. Thank you for coming. Be blessed with wealth and health and happiness. Chodesh Tov. Sleep well, and we'll see you, B'ezrat Hashem, next week, Sunday. Shabbat Shalom, U'Varach, and Chodesh Tov. Amen ve'amen.
God, thank you so much.
All the best.
Thank you.
God bless.